Welcome back. On this lesson, we are going to learn something about the chess game that usually teachers don't really talk about. This is the conception of the squares of the board in a particular way. All of us know about this. This is called the center. Oops, sorry. This is called the center. And we know that it's important to control the center in order to bring our pieces towards these squares where they really can control a lot of the ally and enemy squares. You see? Well, we don't only have this center, we also have the extended or the big center. This is also important. In openings like, for example, e4, c5, the Sicilian, we learned that with a flank pawn, with a pawn from the c file, okay, we can control this square from the center. So, oops, sorry again, this is one of my first videos. If we exchange these pieces, look at this. This is truly important to know because in the future, when the position gets like maybe a little bit of advance, you will see that these pawns will play a big role in the future. If this pawn, for example, gets captured, these two on nothing can't end the game in a position where the endgame favors the black pieces because of the 2 on nothing or 2 on 1. And this c file is always a nice thing to have, being black, because this is a semi-open file and this pawn is a weakness. You see? Okay, we also have the flanks. Okay, this one I am right now signaling is the king side. Okay, and this is the queen side. It's very important to bear in mind that when we castle on this side, we don't really use these pawns very much, maybe to give some squares to the king. For example, if we play kind of really normal Italian game, okay, like this, we develop this move is multi-purpose. One of the purposes is to always avoid this pin. And one of the other purposes that we can have is, in the future, avoiding the background checkmate by giving the h2 square to the king. Okay? Phenomenal. More things to take into account. Knights, where do they go? Usually they go here, right? That's why, at the beginning, we usually put the knight first and then we decide what to do with the bishop. Okay? We have always to think like this, and this is the reason why we have, for example, the Italian opening and the Spanish opening, because we decide now, after moving the knight, where do I put my bishop? Do I want it to have an aggressive role against this pawn that is weak? And why these pawns are the weakest one in the position? Easy, because they are defended by only the king, you see? So when I put it here, multi-purpose move. I control the center, I attack a pawn, I develop a base, and I try to castle. And I am completing what I have to do in the opening, that is, controlling the center with pawns, develop my pieces by attacking or by doing multiple purposes, and securing my king. And then we proceed with keep controlling the center, developing the rest of the pieces, etc. More things to know about this. There are openings that don't really try to attack the center, but they control it from the distance. For example, this one, trying to control the black squares with the pieces instead of the pawns, or maybe just some pawns, for example, like this. Okay, preparing maybe d4, c4 in the future. These kind of openings are quite usable for the advanced players, but maybe not that good for intermediate or beginners. The purpose of this video is really to take into consideration all these squares, when to look at the king side, the queen side, and these squares as well. Why? Because there are some moments, for example, when we play the cow opening, right? Something like this. When we put the knight on these 4 squares. And these 4 squares are not good for the knight. Kasparov used to say that these knights are less valuable than a couple of pawns, for example. And why is it so? Because of this kind of moves. Helping ignore the evaluation bar now, because this is not a truly normal opening. This is a flank pawn that is threatening the knight to go back, to lose time, and helping the rook to activate. You see? So, these are not good squares, these are good squares. But, for example, when do I know how to put the knight here or here? Easy. Usually, there are positions like, for example, the Bobinic system, when we play something like this. Okay? Let's say something like this, right? Now, this knight usually will go here, okay? Maybe the position is not the perfect one to do the explanation because of this weakness. Okay. Let me apologize. I'm going to set up another position, more reasonable, with against the Sicilian, like this. We have to play d6 because c5 is a threat. Bishop g2, knight f6, and now, yeah, okay. Now, this is the move. This is not the move because we are blocking the bishop, okay? And maybe we have some cool jumps over here. So, like this, castle, and, for example, if we play now bishop e3, there can be problems with this knight maneuvering. So, prophylaxis is another very important detail we have to bear in mind. Always try to avoid the enemy plan. Always try to ask yourself why the enemy played that move. What is the threat? Is there any checkmate? Is there any capture? Is it dangerous? Okay? Now, are you a player of e4, d4, knight f3, c4? That doesn't really matter. What matters the most is to have the concept. The concept will take you to this quality jump you need to be more than 1,000, 1,500, even 2,000. So, always remember, these squares are essential. First thing we have to do, pawns. Second thing we have to do, knights. And in this kind of second thing, after the knights, bishops. Okay? You don't know if the bishop is better here, or even here. Knights only have 2 positions, and usually we use these ones. We don't use these ones. This is very, very, very rare. This is always bad. I mean, maybe not always, but 95% of the cases we play this is bad. Maybe with a redrawing of this kind of moves, or maybe, for example, a silly example. Okay, you play like this, and you say, well, I don't really want to block my bishop, and I can't move here, so I move here, and after that I move here. Okay, I mean, that's kind of reasonable, but it's not good. Okay, so always take this into consideration. Use these pawns to undermine the enemy center. Avoid these squares for your knights. if possible, because they are bad squares. Remember, this is a really weak square, so attacking it's usually nice. And please, before doing any plan, try to control the center with pawns, develop the pieces in order to castle your king, and then we will learn how to create a plan or follow a sequence to maintain or regain the advantage back. Thank you very much for paying attention. I hope that you like the video. Subscribe, that helps me a lot to make more videos. I know that we are really few people, but well, we all begin at some point, right? So, thank you very much. I'll see you on the board.